Thank you for joining the course Counseling Skills. My name is Suveen. I have been working as a counseling psychologist for more than 10 years. The kind of counseling skills we are going to cover in this course are not ordinary, are not something that you can find on Google and everywhere. It's purely from my personal life experiences, personal counseling experiences, and my team, counseling psychologist team, has put all these skills down. Now, many of the counseling skills you'll find are traditional and some are absolutely modern. When I say modern, what I mean that these are the counseling skills that will make you feel you must have if you are a 21st century counselors. Let me get started one by one. And if you want to be ready with a pen and paper, awesome. And I promise you, these counseling skills will make you the #1 counselor. These are 12 in numbers, and I will take one by one. Now, why it is important to focus on these counseling skills? Because the time had changed, or the time has been changing. You know that the problems have been changing over the period of time. The solutions cannot be the same. So where you need to master and you need to learn the traditional counseling skills, you should also know what are the modern counseling skills that otherwise counselors do not pay attention and don't upgrade themselves. Let's get started. Let me share this screen. Okay. Let's see. Now, I'm sure you already have learned the basic skills you should have as a counselor. And if you have not, you might want to search or look up one of the courses named Skills of a Counselor, and we can take it up there. Now, let's get started here. The #1 counseling skills that I consider you as a counselor should have, because this is a part of counseling program. When I mention a skills, it's not limited to that you should have it. It should be enabled in you. It's everything that you require to manage counseling session. Here's a quick look, and let me start one by one. First call, session preparation. It's really, really important, very important and crucial that you should be master, not just good at preparing this session. Either it's an online session or offline session, doesn't matter. Now, what are the things? So a few things I'm going to cover, and it's a lot here, trust you me, but I'm sure you will have discovered something of your own. Keep adding it. You can't learn everything from from one place and from one person. That's true. But the idea is to teach you so much, to give you so much that you feel that confidence. So it doesn't matter either you're doing it in formal setup or informal setup, you should always remember these key points. In session preparation, what is it that you need to pay attention? The first one is setting. So when you're preparing the session, either online or offline, ensure that you have setting in mind, where you're doing it, the room that you have, place you have. So when it comes to setting, ensure that there is a comfortable light, the temperature is good, sound is right, the privacy is maintained any which way. Right? When you're doing a long line, just ensure that no one else is there in the session. You are the only one, right? When you're doing it offline, you need to ensure that wherever the client would sit, it's a comfortable place. There is a light, right? It's not too dim, not too bright, right? And the temperature also. And I understand not everybody may have AC room to do it, but however is possible, just ensure that you conduct a counseling session in a normal temperature, not too cold, not too hot, because these things will distract client. And once your client is distracted, or you are distracted for that sake, the session can never have a great output. Second is outfit. You ensure that you come in a formal, right? But not too formal, not something that intimidates the client. And of course, not too casual, because What happens, the dress also carries personality, right? So if you come in a dress that you think you like the most, there's a great chance, or maybe a good chance, your client may not like it. And you can tell a social uh, cliche that, oh, I am who I am and I don't care what people think about me, because the truth is you are acting as a professional. It's not your personal space and personal time. So put the dress as neutral as possible, a dress that doesn't bring a personality out of you. Neutral. I would recommend semi-formal, right? So ensure mind the color of the dress, okay? Ensure that your hair is tidy. Uh, uh, ensure about your perfume. And of course, not everything will matter offline. For example, it won't matter what perfume you have online. Um, and like the hair will matter, definitely dress code will matter, everything. Aura, you need to pay attention that the aura of your room, wherever you're doing this counseling, is is good, is neutral. The aura of the room or the counseling room should not be, it should not have a personality in it. For example, if you like certain people or certain thing, or you believe in God, you shouldn't be putting God's picture, or you should be putting everything, because it's possible the client may not like. It doesn't sound really nice sometimes. If you actually believe in God, oh, I really want to put a God picture, so you can do that. The idea is to maintain it as neutral as possible. The client can be of any religion, client can be of in any practices, follows any community. So you have to ensure that the aura of the room is neutral. You should not have personality. If you like an actor, if you like someone, just make sure that it's not everywhere, right? Because if you already have a personality, it becomes very difficult for a client to know if they can build a rapport with you and they can move forward with your sessions or not. So it's very important that maintain a neutral personality, be like a water, take a shape that you think is required for that counseling session, right? Uh, so in aura, ensure the pics, the design of the room that you have, is it empty, it's a filled, just ensure. It's possible that you have a lot of stuff in the room. It's possible that there is absolutely nothing in the room. That can also be intimidating for some clients. Just ensure it's as neutral as possible. How do you may want to check? You might want to invite someone, someone you have known, and you can ask them to tell you their experience as a client. That what's their first thought? How do they feel? There is an aura of the room, right? Your personality should also matter, that you're friendly in general, you're approachable, presentable. So I would always recommend be friendly and approachable, right? Presentable goes without saying. So yes, ensure maybe you're one of those uh, people who are madly in love with psychology, have long hair, and always want to look one of those geek or wise guys or girls. Please don't. Have a personality that does not intimidate the client, right? So that's very, very important for you. Um, then we have a tone and voice. Tone and voice is very important. So you ensure that what kind of voice and tone that you have, it has to be soft, right? It ensure that the tone is always soft. Keep a warm voice. Warm voice will always help you. And pace, maintain the pace, the right pace, not too fast, not too slow. Just maintain the right pace gradually, and have a low volume, not too high. And that also sometimes depends if you're doing it offline in a room. What is the distance between you and client? That may matter a lot. So maintain a low volume. That's very, very important. Okay, then it comes to communication, right? So when you communicate, ensure that you acknowledge. And there's a lot that we can cover. I mean, on communication, there's a lot we can cover on appreciation and acceptance. But just to tell you that you need to be prepared with all these things in mind, right? Setting, outfit, aura, personality, your tone and voice, and what are the basic things that you might want to remember when you're communicating with the client? It has to be acknowledgement to ensure that you acknowledge client's feeling, special expressions the client gives you. So you keep acknowledging it like, all right, okay. Absolutely. Sure. Why not? So use those phrases and acknowledge the feelings at least, right? Ensure it's not a debate. It's not a matter of your faith or your faith is questioned, your personality is questioned. Don't do that, right? So just let the communication go, acknowledge it rightly, give a client enough space to express themselves. Most importantly, feel comfortable. Create a safe counseling environment. And you're going to remember this phrase, a safe counseling environment. So safe. Clients should feel that safety. So you learn in counseling, people say that you it have to be non-judgmental and everything. But the idea is you need to create that space because without space, it's not possible. So create that safe counseling space. Appreciate your client, right? But don't do too much of it. Be authentic in your appreciations. And how to be authentic, the quick tip I can tell you is be specific about it. Instead of just saying, okay, that's great. Oh, you're awesome. Say specific. Say that, you know what? A lot of people I have known in my 10 years of experience, there are hardly a few people I have known in my life who are so encouraging, who are so daring, who have so much of self-belief. Specific. Or you know what, when you explain that moment and when you told that even you had no reason to stand by, despite you stood by, that's something tells about your personality. Be specific in approach. Even if you want to talk about how they're looking or their appearance, say that, I have seen people and I usually like this color, but this color with this combination is amazing. And, no, I wish to have one of the shirts like this maybe one day. Be specific. That's when you will sound authentic. Truth is, be authentic, but don't be rude. Now, let's come to the session preparation. Once we're done session preparation, let's learn about the counselor's personality. What kind of personality you should have? So you ensure that, and I would say this, smiley. There's no choice. You got to be smiley, right? There's absolutely no choice. But don't keep laughing, right? That's not it. Don't keep laughing. Um, it's very, very important for you that, just give me 1 second. Okay, yeah. So when it comes to counselor's personality, just ensure that you're smiley, smile all the time. My recommendation is smile all the time because first of all, when you smile, it gives people this confidence that you're accessible. It gives people this confidence that you're flexible, right? You're confident. Smile. So when it comes to having a counselor personality, ensure that you smile. Right? A light smile will be more than enough. You don't have to laugh, of course, but a light smile. But of course, you need to be careful. For example, if you're offering grief counseling, having smile in the beginning may not really be appropriate many times. So, but the whole idea is that, but have that light smile time to time. It gives counselee a confidence that their counselor is confident. Because the only people who smile are the ones who are confident about themselves, who are confident about what is it that they're doing. So it's very important that you smile. Be flexible in the approach. Sometimes it's possible that the client asks you to reschedule something, demands you something extra. The session is increased a little bit more. Be flexible in your approach. Right? It's very, very important because your client is looking for someone who can mend things for them. So it's very important that you need to be with your client, right? So be flexible in your approach. Be agreeable in your approach. Don't be too uh, don't be too direct. Don't be too debating. Don't always sound to have like you always have a self-opinion of everything. Just be agreeable in approach, right? You don't always have to be right. The whole point is to be nice, not to be right necessarily, right? And then gradually you can find a way, let's say even if you have a point, but you think that counseling may not be able to take this point, instead of being direct and rude, you find a better way of putting your points across later on in the conversation, right? Approachable, non-judgmental goes without saying, but it's close to impossible for people not to judge someone because it's an innate, it's mechanically, this is how we are. But the idea, what is the difference? You need to be analytical, but not judgmental. What is the difference? So as and when you move forward in the counseling session, obviously you will end up learning about the counseling and your perspective, your image of the counseling will change every single day with every piece of conversation that you have. The idea is when you analyze, you do the calculation in yourself, in your mind. You don't tell this to client. But when you tell your analysis to the client, that is when you judge. So the idea is, when you say non-judgmental, what is it that you need to do? So of course, you can't stop to be analytical. In fact, this is one of your core jobs, but non-judgmental. So analyze, but don't judge. Means connect the dots, make a picture, but don't tell. Because that picture can be absolutely wrong in the next few minutes when you get more facts. So be analytical, but not judge, but don't be judgmental. Always be a problem solver, right? It's very important for you because when a client approaches you, they expect that I'm going to go to someone who either has been there, has done that, have seen people, has some way out. This is the hope they have. I personally, analyze my session this way. So I always ensure that whatever the problems client has by end of the session, or by end of the week, or whenever the session ends, be a problem solver, right? Not just tell people, because a lot of counselors, they do that. When they are presented with the problem, they usually give them, this is what people do, you may also try. This is what people do. No, that's not the idea. The idea is be there to help them. Be there to solve it. That's the idea. Don't just tell them that this is how it works. Make them do it if possible. Watch them do it if possible. Be there when they're doing it and ensure that they're done with it. Be a problem solver, whatever it takes you to, right? Be a problem solver, because if they could solve their problem themselves, they could have done it. So these are the few qualities and you need to have in your personality as a counselor. Be smiley all the time. Right? Be flexible in your approach, agreeable, approachable always. Right? Give this confidence to your client. They can reach out to you anytime. Perfectly okay. Yeah. Yeah, some clients is possible, they can start nagging you, they can start calling you, but I think, you will gradually learn how to deal with them, because you will also learn how to handle difficult clients. But this is about the cosmic personality. um, Now it comes to rapport building, my most favorite, and I always say that, but not just rapport building. If you pay attention, it says rapid rapport building, not just rapport building. Rapid rapport building. How do you build rapport quickly and rapidly? Because you won't have that much time necessarily. So how do you quickly want to build rapport and move forward? Oh, a few tips I've given you. First is doing. Use some activities or make them do something. Right? So this is the one thing that you can do. When you're about to build a rapport rapidly, any activity, whenever you start a session, and right after your basic introduction and everything, have some activity related to the kind of session you're going to offer, right? And make them do something, because when people involve in some activity, the rapport is built by default. You don't have to do much. So any activity where there is a shared time, shared interest, right? The rapport will be built like this. So doing is the first. And you can think of hundreds of ways, what kind of activities you might want to do to build the rapport. Second is liking. Whatever you can like about them and around them is quick. I do many times, right? But be specific. Whatever you like about your client, whatever you like about them and around them. For example, you ask, so what part of country you're from? So, oh, I'm from West. Oh, I'm from North. Oh, I'm from this state. And quickly, whatever you have around that state, make sure this is not sensitive. You can start building a rapport quickly on this, all about them, where they have done their education, what is it that they have been doing as a part of profession, anything. And then you can quickly build that rapport. Quickly start speaking about this. Oh, I am somewhere, somehow related with it. Oh, my father was in this. Oh, my brother was in this. Oh, I know one of my friends, she was doing this. Anything about them and around them will be more than, right? Talking. It's important the first you talk what they want to hear. And then later on, they will hear what you want to talk. It's important. Because many times a client needs validation, not necessarily a solution, just a validation. They keep looking for someone they can trust, who can validate them, acknowledge them, at least listen to them. So it's very important, if you listen to them in the beginning, later on, they will listen to you. Right? I always share this with people that it's very important. It's important that the client likes you. It's very important. Some people may not agree. They're like, oh no, it's not important. It's very important. Because if they don't like you, remember this formula. If they don't like you, they're not going to listen to you. If they don't listen to you, they will not understand you. If they won't understand you, they won't accept you. If they won't accept you, they won't act on anything you say. And if they don't act on anything you say, they will never change, no matter who you are. Now, it says that listening is the beginning of love and care. The moment you start listening to someone, people start feeling or having that comfort and positivity about you. Start trusting you. believing in you, connecting to you. So you ensure the first you hear what they want to say, and gradually they will hear what you want to say. Then asking, how else you build a rapport? Asking to say something or to do something. It's interesting that you can make someone like you, and the whole idea is not to like. It's a one of the rapport building techniques so that you can move forward. The idea is not that you ensure that the client likes you all the time. That's not the idea. The idea is to get started in the conversation. The idea is to get to the point we can actually help, but they will only allow you if you can unlock them. Otherwise, they won't. So ensure that you ask them to do something. For example, you can just simply ask them as simple as, hi, can you do this for me? Hi, can you hold it for me? Hi, can you watch my pet? I'll be back. Hi, can you doing something, but what? Something that's petite, very small, that you think the client will feel happy doing it for you. So the whole idea is ask them to do something or to see something. For example, taking their advice or suggestions and expertise will immediately build a rapport. For example, your client is a financial advisor, right? You don't have to convert that session into financial advisors, but you can say, I always wondered, and I've heard from a lot of people, they say that do not use credit card. I'm not sure. I'm not very good with numbers and finances, but what's your piece of advice? Just in case if you want. Oh, no, well, and they will give you whatever piece of advice they will give you. The idea is they feel contributed. They feel they feel that they have contributed in someone's life. And the moment you have the feeling of contribution, you feel good about yourself too. It so happens. Then sharing about you and people around you. How else you can build a rapport? You can build a rapport, but share something about you without them asking necessarily, or something around you. Now, you know what? It's a funny incident that happened last night with one of my flatmates, one of my relatives here. Whatever you want to share, anything that you want to share, you say, it so happens when you work so much, sometimes, you don't even remember what you're doing. So yesterday, what happened? I was drinking coffee, and instead of pouring coffee or putting coffee in the milk, I put milk in coffee. The whole jar was just spoiled. This is sad news, but trust to me, that made me realize that I really need to focus. It so happens sometimes you're so much occupied in thoughts. Share anything. Notice sense the situation of the session, the personality of the client, and see what kind of conversation can really get started. Everything. Last is 3 words that you have. Always remember action, deprecation, and liking. 3 things, a quick rapport building that you can. Action, ensure there is some action, because action involves people. And when people are involved, the rapport building is guaranteed. Deprecation, generally so happens the clients, feel intimidated because they see you as the perfect. And of course, they see themselves as imperfect, at least for that moment. Idea is deprecate yourself a little bit. Let the client feel we both are at the same stage, same point. It will really work. And last is liking. Make sure they like you. So very important. So ensure that you have the most neutral personality. So much so that you can be one with them. All right. Next that we have is a relationship with the client, a counseling. What kind of relationship you should have with your counseling? Well, unarguably or undoubtedly, people go, oh, you should have a professional relationship. But there are a lot of shades of relationship that I can share from my personal experiences. And you can pick whatever suits you. So, but whatever I have observed over 10 years of my counseling career, I can tell you is some people are very mechanical in relationship. I'm not saying that you should have very mechanical relationship where zero emotion involved. Too mechanical. Everything is on document, by process, on paper. That's how it is. Sometimes that's beneficial when the client is either nosy, or when the client is really after you, when your client is annoying, or when your client is very difficult to handle. When you know that any proximity a little bit is will not lead to a good result. So there, it's important to have mechanical relationship. Or when your client becomes too dependent on you, when things are out of your hand a little bit, in those situations, the mechanical approach. So what is mechanical approach with a relationship? In a relationship is to the point, 100%, not just professional, but mechanical. You go by process. If it's 1 hour, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 10 minutes it is. If the client, you don't share your personal information, a personal phone number or something like that, okay, you don't. If a client cannot come and for counseling session without booking a session, they just can't. Everything by process. No hard feelings. That's one approach. Professional approach is when you have some space of adjustments and flexibility. Some space, right? You do, but it's all professional. So you can adjust some, maybe a 10 minutes plus or minus, 15 minutes plus or minus. Maybe today they are late, maybe tomorrow, just one day, out of nowhere, they call you in the night, or they text you, or they needed your advice or suggestions, something, a little bit of it. Adjustment will do. Friendly is when you're absolutely friendly with client, but friendly, not as a friend. Friendly in the approach. We are very flexible with the client, very, very flexible, right? And that depends. So I think the best relationship with the client is the one that works. That's it. I don't have a comment here that which one you should. I would say that pick anything that works. It's possible you started with mechanical and then moved to professional and friendly and personal. Okay, perfectly okay. Now, what is personal? Personal is when you share your emotion, a literal emotion with the client. It's not otherwise recommended that you need to be that personal with client. I would say that there are times and there are situations you got to be. Whenever you feel, the only thing you need to keep in mind is all these 4 different relationships you have and you will have with client should not work against the goal that you're trying to achieve. Should work for the goal, not against it. That's it. Personal is about when you're in a sync with client, you're one with client. And sometimes it's appropriate. But you find when it's appropriate, when it's feel. My best advice is keep switching. Don't just keep one. Why? Because your relationship with client keeps changing. So keep switching. Still, professional is the best. Why? Because it keeps you safe. You never know. When clients become too personal, too friendly, things may not go in a way that you want. Be professional. It's the best. But in case you think that you need to be friendly so that one day you can be professional first, or you need to be personal so that one day you can bring it back to professional, or you need to be mechanical in the beginning so that at least you remain professional, do that. All right. Let's say what's next. History taking. It's very important that you learn about the client as much as possible. The more you learn about the client, the better it is. The more you know client, the less question you have. The less question you have, the more answers you have. How do you need to take history? Well, you must already have a history taking form, so you can do that, but I would recommend you that take it in a question answer form than just passing the form. don't make it too boring or too mechanical. Now, I'm just giving you a little bit um, understanding here that how this will work, and then gradually you can learn more about this. The basics that you need to keep in mind when you're taking history about certain mental illnesses or psychological issues or anything that you're discussing your client with, whatever the issue your client has come to you for. First is learn about the what factor. What is the issue? As detailed as possible, as much as possible, right? Then learn the how factor, how this issue came in picture, right? Discuss about the place. Discuss about, okay, where is the place? Where did it all start from? Learn about that place a little bit about. Then learn about the people who were involved when this happened, directly, indirectly. Then learn about the impact. What was the initial impact they had on their body, mind, and feelings? And then gradually move to history of individual. Is this just about that client, or it's been in the family, or it's a medical issue that they have? So what's the history of it? It's something that very individual, just happened to the client, no family history with it, no medical history with it. It just happened. It was an accident, it was an incident, but this just happened, right? Whatever it is. Let's say if client has developed some mental illness, let's say depression, you might want to ask that what it is and understand the client's symptoms and see if these all are the symptoms matching with the depression. And then learn about the how it all started. Was there something that triggered? Was there a traumatic experience the client has gone through? Learn about this. Where it happened, who were there, who were people involved. Was this a relationship issue? Was this an issue of workplace? How it all started? Was it financial loss, identity loss? How it all started, right? And how was the impact? It's possible, you see, sometimes some clients are very, very healthy when they go through some traumatic phase and their entire body shape changes. They never come back in the same shape many a times. So learn about all this. How the way their mind starts functioning. Some people start developing this, that they can hardly remember things, they can hardly focus. And feelings too. Some people become absolutely immune to emotional impact. Just learn about them. So I would say the key things that you can keep in mind is like your personal, professional, and financial and social. 4 aspects you need to keep in mind. So learn about the client's personal life as much as you want and can. Professional life as much as you want and can. Social life, if they have any, and they always have. Not necessarily social life is not necessarily with people. It can be social media. It can have. It's possible that there's a certain community, they have any life, or financial too, because most of the psychological issues that people have come from these lifestyles. So this is something that you can do. All right, let's see what next we have. Note-taking strategy. Cool. So you know that whenever you offer a counseling session, you either are ready with a digital note-taking pad that you have, or you take note. Yeah, strongly recommended not to take note in cell phone. That doesn't look very nice. Even you are doing the right job, client doesn't really feel comfortable with it because phones have been heavily used for entertainment, unfortunately. So that's why the confidence or the authenticity is not seen there. So have a pen and paper. But the best note-taking advice that I can tell you is, it so happens that we all want to take as much note as possible, but that's not the idea, right? You don't have to transcript whatever the client says. In fact, whatever client says, so how do you want to take note? Just ensure that it say that do not write a paragraph if you can write a sentence. If you think that whatever the client has been saying for the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes can be summarized in a sentence, just write a sentence. It says that don't write a sentence if you can write a phrase. If you can write a phrase that can define that sentence. Don't write that sentence. Just a phrase is enough. He said, don't write a phrase if you can write a word. If a word alone can tell you the entire picture, what it is, what the conversation is about, just write a word. And you say, don't even write that word if you can remember it. Because it so happens when you remember and when you recall the information and incorporate this or bring this during the discussion, people feel happy. For example, you say, I remember the first session when you mentioned that you're not like this. You say that you are very sensitive, very friendly in approach. And you mention a person's name who you think was responsible for who you have become now. Yes. It's the greatest thing you can do. You don't want to, oh, hold on, you told that person's name. Let me check my notepad. That's not a good idea, right? That's not a good idea at all. So just ensure that this is what it is. Then you have, what else you can do? You can create an acronym, right? One or two, whatever, let's say you have been offering some solutions to the client and you created an acronym. You need to ensure that that acronym works. You don't have to remember I don't have to write all the sentences, all the paragraph. Just write an acronym. Let's say you suggested a client that, you know what, I would recommend you when it comes to performance. The pillar of performance is your skill, will, thrill, and drill. 4 things. You need to pay attention on your skill. You do not have enough skills, you can't be a good performer. You don't have enough will, you can't be a good performer. If you don't do enough drill, there's no lot of action. You can't be a performer. And if you don't have that thrill, you can't be a good performer. So this is a pillar of performance. And then you can create an acronym taking the first letter of it. And say, here's the acronym. So whenever you think that your performance is not up to the mark, see what is missing. In case you're doing employee counseling, you can do that. Just like that. Then what else you might want to do when you take note? Mind mapping, you can go in Google and learn more about mind mapping, note taking strategy, or sign a picture, maybe create a sign, right? Anything that tells you the entire story, just scribble it and remember it all. It's the best thing that you can do. People love it when you remember it because they feel that, oh, it was important enough for you to pay attention and you cared enough to remember it, right? And just ensure that please don't keep looking down or get lost in a notepad. It doesn't really feel nice. So really quickly take a note. Don't spend a lot of time looking down, otherwise it doesn't look nice at all. So quickly take notes. Now, it's possible sometimes you're not able to take note during the session. What you might want to do that when you're done with the session, go and take either write a note, write a summary of your session, or maybe record simply. It can be the best thing that you can do. Use recording. Just like, hi, this is Suveen, counseling session 5. Client name is this. This is how the client, whatever the important information, however you can summarize it and keep it for your sake. Right? Okay. Now we have counseling pitches. So one of these skills, it's possible that many times what happens, many counselors starts a counseling session with thinking that the client will start speaking. The truth is, there are a lot of issues a client may have or have too sensitive, too painful. They don't want to start, right? So what you can do, sometimes you need to start that conversation. I call it a monologue, 1 minute, 2 minutes conversation that you just want to start. Start with setting, it's about setting the ground for further communication or talking about the problems, right? So you want to pitch about counseling. For example, if you're helping someone with depression, you're helping someone with addiction, you can start like this. You can say that 1 or 2 minutes of monologue in a way, so that gives some space for the client to feel comfortable and to get started. Ensure this is in positive note. How you might want to start, let's say, if you're this counseling is about addiction, you might want to start like, you know what? Every addiction start with hobby that we do in our free time. Hobby that we don't even have to do. We just did of no reason. So everything starts from hobby, then gradually it converts into habit, then compulsion, and then addiction. So when it comes to getting rid of some addiction, the idea is to undo it gradually. It didn't happen all at a time, so you won't go all at a time. You just need to undo it. And that's how it is. Or you want to start about, anything, any different way of counseling pitches. For example, you can say that, when I was small, my parents would always ask me to stay away from certain things. They would say there is a bad stuff. Well, I'm not doing it. I'm just trying it. Unless I learned something very important. And that impacted me so much that I still remember it. My mom said, don't try bad stuff thing in life. Because what you're going to do if you start liking it? That was so impactful. So you can start. So how do you want to start a counseling pitch? You can start with a story of a client, or anything, any story. You can start with a question. For example, if this is addiction, you say, you know what? People smoke, people drink, people do every stuff that maybe you have done. Have you ever thought, if it's all fair to do, it's all okay to do, everybody's already doing there and they're happy, they're doing whatever they think that it's, but why do you think you are here? Have you ever thought about this? Because somewhere, unknowingly, innocently, we have crossed the boundary. Something like this. Start with a question, anything that literally, makes you feel comfortable. Start with a fact. Let's say you're doing depression, you can say that. Look at the clock. With every passing second, someone is suiciding in the world. 60 suicide in a minute. Just to give you a fact, you can check the data right now. So start with a fact, but very interestingly, start with a commitment. Like you usually say that. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate that you have shown a courage to finally taking a counseling session. I promise you, however, every session is absolutely new to me, even if I've been doing it for 10 years. But I promise you and assure you, I don't know how fast we can move to recovery, but I can promise you, it will never be the same. It will never be the same. With every passing session, things will change. You can start with a commitment, right? Start with self-deprecation. You can say, well, at the first look, it might look, I'm very well aware what is this, and I have been helping people. My life must be perfect. But the truth is, 5 years ago, I was exactly sitting at the same place where I was sitting right now. I was an addict. And that's where this story of me being psychology started. So you can tell self-deprecation, right? Start with an activity, any activity that you have. Start with a video. If you have any video and you're doing it online or offline, it doesn't matter. Start with a video, a short video. Say, why don't we take a look? And then we discuss. Start with a quote. If you have some quote, a punchline that you want to start with a quote. Or start with an insight. What is insight? That a new look, in the information that other people, most people miss out. Not information, start with an insight that creates that aha feeling. Oh, okay, that insight. For example, you can say, you know what? It's interesting to know that the process of addiction or the stages of addiction is exactly the same stages, exactly the same as passion. It's just that when it results negative, it's addiction. When it results positive, it's passion. You started as a hobby, you continued as a habit, then you move to you know, uh, then you move to a compulsion, and then it becomes your passion. This results in anything positive. So an insight can really help. So this is how you start a counseling pages. I will say have it maybe 90 seconds of a monologue. We'll prepare it for different counseling situations and get started. It's going to be wonderful. Okay. Now, questioning techniques. It's so important because generally you will have two different kind of clients. One who won't stop talking and one who won't start talking. Now, you must have something for both. So the clients who speak too much, you need to use leading questions, questions that has a power to change the direction of conversation. Why? Because that conversation is not taking anywhere positive. It's not bringing any solution. So clients are mostly in the habit of repeating the same thing over and over again. Something, the same question they had in the first session, they might have in the third one or fifth one. Why? Because some information is so critical to them, so much matters that they keep repeating. They're not satisfied with the answer. Not because they don't have the right answer, but because this answer does not work for them. It so happens, right? I can tell you a story. I was doing one of the counseling session. It was a marriage counseling, relationship counseling, basically. And she's been complaining that she loved her husband like anything, but her husband left after 5 years of commitment. And she's trying to find the answer why. And during this conversation, the one thing that I noticed that she was repeating over and over, and she got me in trouble, and the clients can get you in trouble asking you a question that there is an obvious answer to this, but that answer does not work for them, and they want you to what to do. For example, if she's been asking that I loved him, I did this for him, I did this for him, I did that for him, a lot, everything. He was nice, he was good. How can someone leave after this much of love? And this question was so repetitive, unless I asked a leading question, like, so I understand that he had million reasons to love him. And I don't doubt your love. You absolutely loved more than anything. But for a relationship, even if love is not important in a relationship, but let's say, or suppose I consider it, for a relationship to continue, the love has to be from both sides. So what are the reasons you can tell me now you think he loved you for? What do you think he loved you for? You loved him for many reasons. And she was like, I don't know. I loved. That's right. Why do you think he loved you, if he did? What reasons you think you had? She was at loss. I did not do a wonder. I'm just giving you an example that how you can ask leading questions. Leading question has a power to change the direction of a conversation. Follow-up questions, all of you know, right? Follow-up questions you ask when you want to get more detail out of it, right? And you can ask like how, when, where, how much, right? How long, how far, how less. You can ask a lot of other follow-up questions, right? Leading questions are important and new. It's not something a lot of people do. And I would ask you, I'm just giving you a concept and framework so that you can develop many of your own and you can ask. But these are the leading questions that have been working for me a lot. So like, what if? Ask a lot of what if question, hypothetical situation. Because this situation this situation will force client to think that it make them visualize and see something, give them an idea, right? Sometimes these questions work as a wake-up call. For example, if you It can be in any form, not necessarily in what if form. For example, I remember from one of my counseling experiences. So he was complaining that I've been bearing everyone in my family too much. I don't think I deserve this. It's a toxic family. Okay, yeah, possible, 100%. But let me ask you this. Do you realize or do you believe that every time you think you're bearing someone too much, it's possible someone also is bearing you too much? Have you ever thought about this? And there was a pin drop silence for a few seconds. I don't know, maybe. That's the point. That's how family runs, adjustments. Yeah, a lot of, and then we continued. Idea is to ask those questions, right? So what if question, if not, ask question like, if not this, then what you want to do? If it didn't happen, what you want to do? Tell me more about this. So ask about, what? Tell me more about this. Or tell me more about this person at this time, this moment, this incident, that day, that night, right? It opens a new door of solutions. What about question? Ask them like, what about question? What about this? What about that? Or apart from this, apart from that, because the reason you say apart from this, apart from that, because you don't want your client to keep coming and talking about the same stuff. Client always want to, because they feel happy talking about the same thing that they think should work in their favor, because they want that validation. That's all right. Think about it. Sometimes what do you want? You know what? Think about it for the moment before you answer, and think deeply about this. And then say, and then ask, right? Or say, you know what? Let's take a moment. Let's take a moment from the conversation that we have, or let's take a moment from the situation, and let's discuss. So you see, these styles will open a new door, a possibility of getting into a new direction, right? Or let me ask you, you might want to say, oh, do you think, to be more specific, tell me about it. Tell me about that. So this is how you ask questioning and a leading question. It's a very interesting. You can prepare so much depending on whatever counseling you're doing. And I promise you, you try these questions, it'll be life-changing. It will offer you a lot of great solutions that you can only think of. Let's see, what next? Handling difficult clients. No matter how good you think you are or you actually are, you will always come across that one client or a set of clients, that will give you a hard time. You should know how to handle them. You shouldn't take personally. It's not about you, it's about them. So what are the things you should be doing when it comes to handling difficult clients? And who can be that difficult clients? Mr. Know-all, Miss Know-all, Mr. Do-all, Miss Do-all can be, it happens. And this is true. See, if I'm executive of one of the companies, and there are 5,000 people work for me, just because I'm not doing well in my life and I have come to you, you're starting your career as a counselor. Oh, not necessarily I want to bow down immediately. And I want to accept. Maybe I'll sit in a way that, because I think of something. That's how I run a business. That's how I'm so confident and all. So people won't really be humble immediately or will pay attention. They sometimes, I know this, I have done this. This doesn't work. Okay. They will schedule the session, cancel the session. They will do everything that you may not expect. The idea is, how do you handle it? You also understand, even doctors, they work with uncooperative clients, the clients who are not cooperative. They work with them. How do they work with them? You have to have patience. Right? Praise and appreciation works anything and anytime. Just ensure that you praise and you appreciate people. Start small. Some people don't like appreciation and praise publicly. Everybody likes it. Everybody likes it. They might not respond or react on it, but you have planted this. If you say that, as simple as that, that's very sweet of you. You said so. Thank you. Not everybody says it. Oh, you're looking healthier today. I don't know what is the reason, but comparatively, yeah, okay. I don't think so. I think I'm tired. But they will go look into in the mirror and say, huh, okay. Or you're feeling happy. Anything, praise and compliments, appreciation, genuine one. And everybody has 100 things to appreciate and compliment. Everybody has, authentically. So then give them liberty, give them some space to do in a controlled setting. Why don't you do this? You know what? Let me make this special for you. All right, let me make this make it as an exception. Give them liberty, give them space. Like, why don't you try this? Why don't you do? Give them liberty and space. It really settles them down. Then sharing risk factors. Tell them if they don't do this, what are the risks? And not only share the what risks are there, share and be specific and intelligent as a psychologist that these are the risks they can't afford. Because everyone can afford a certain set of risks. But there is no use of showing a set of risks that I can afford taking. Whenever you talk about risks, ensure you talk about a risk they can't afford to take. That's the only moment in time they're going to listen to you, consider you, especially when they're difficult clients. Agreeing with them, sometimes agreeing with them gets all the job done, right? I heard a story a long time ago. He says that there was this person, he would always keep saying, people, you're right, you're right. One of his colleagues came and say, how can you say you're right all the time? Right? This is not good. You can't keep saying people you're right. He said, I'm sorry, I think you're right. So see whatever works. Yeah. Finding their weaknesses. It's also very important that you learn about their weaknesses because people are rigid. They're strong-willed, but they don't remember their limitations. As intelligently as possible, talk about their weaknesses. Pain makes people humble. Weaknesses makes people humble. So they can listen to you. Present is as intelligently as possible. Just ensure you don't sound insensitive. And as a psychologist or counselor, you should have this ability of telling the truth and still ensuring it doesn't hurt. Right? Comparing them sometimes. Sometimes they think they are the best because they don't know if there are other people outside. So just as intelligently as possible, keep comparing. If they give you a hard time, we'll settle them down. Offering rewards and gifts, sometimes it does. Traditionally, it may not be accepted, but I would say just offer any small thing that's possible. Because it becomes very difficult for someone to be difficult with you when they have something from you. It's very difficult. When you shared something with someone, it becomes very difficult for them. At least they are no longer a troublemaker. When they are no longer a troublemaker, they pay attention. When they pay attention, things happen. So the whole strategy is to ensure that it works in their favor in the end. The strategy is not to give them a gift. The strategy is to start anything that works. Being vulnerable sometimes your client, everybody has that defensive, had that guard. Sometimes you putting your guard down can literally help. Sometimes, let's say, become too nosy, too difficult, you can say that, you know what, I'm 32 years old. You must be, you're 50 years old. We have been in the world, we have been living in the same world, maybe same town, possibly. I've never known you, you've never known me. It's unfortunate and fortunate that we met. Trust you me, the only thing that I have here, or my main interest here, is to ensure that I provide you the support that you're looking for. That's it. I'm sure after this, you have a great life. You will have a great life. You have a better life. My concern is, this is my moral and professional duty to ensure that I offer you the best service as possible. So I would request you to please do not mind whatever procedure and anything, just put it. Being vulnerable, say this. This is my limitation. You want to be angry, you can be angry. But your job may be to be angry. My job is to be patient. My job is to help you in whatever situation that you're at. So be vulnerable sometimes, right? All the rapport building techniques, and plus follow all the rapport building techniques, because once you have a good rapport, oh, there is no question of having a difficult client. It's all settled down. That's one of the skills that you can do. Session ornamenting model. Now, I have a lot of counselors coming back to me and telling me that, you know what, sometimes even when people book the sessions, but they still don't attend it. They have booked session for 5 sessions, 10 sessions, they only attend after 1 or 2. Well, I don't want to sound insensitive and rude, but the truth is, most of the counselors that I have known, their sessions are very boring, so methodical, so mechanical. It's boring. So session ornamenting model, this model will give you a lot of tips and tricks how to make your session super engaging. So much so, people would love to come to your session, attend your session. Right? What can be these? What you can use during your session? So, for example, you can use case history, right, to bring confidence to the counselor. You know, of course, concealing the name and the personal information, but use a case history. You know, you remind me, or your situation reminded me of someone when I started my practice 7 years ago. I had someone in very similar situation, the same situation that you are in, and then tell a positive outcome, or tell something that you think you really want your client to pay attention to. Case history, build it. Then involvement, right? Involve them in games, movies, anything that you think. And anything that you think. So involvement, I already talked about. Involve your client, right? Ensure that in every session you have something that you can involve your client. Right? But don't use a childish or kiddish activity, all right? Even if just depending on the client's maturity and all, have those set of activities, or something that can really connect with the intellectual ability of the client. So just ensure that it has some standard. Group counseling, sometimes what you can say, you can invite your client in one of the group counselings. You can already set the ground and tell what it is and how this is going to work, and say that you just want them to be there. Sometimes it helps them a lot. It's not only for a change, but it also, when you see other people, what they have going through, what they have gone through, it really questions you if you can be better or you can handle it better. So invite them in group counseling, right? For, let's say you have 10 clients and you're offering counseling on depressions, you might want to do a group counseling session. People can share their experiences, whatever they feel comfortable with. Or maybe you already have some activities planned. In group counseling, things will be different, right? Can be, props to demonstrate something that you want to demonstrate. You have a prototype or some props that you want to demonstrate. Okay, this is how it is, right? You want to explain a theory or a concept, because if you really want your client to focus and pay attention, for example, you can say that, let's say you are giving a session on stress, you're offering. So maybe, you can hold something very heavy. For example, you can hold the cell phone. You can say that if I keep holding the cell phone for, how much is this cell phone weigh? Maybe 200 grams, 300 grams. But if I keep holding this like this for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, the weight of the cell phone, I might start feeling this is getting heavier. It's not the weight of the cell phone that's getting heavier, it's the way I'm holding it still. So say that it's not about the stress or the amount of stress that you have. It's like the longer you hold, the heavier it feels. So you might want to demonstrate something. You can collect more of this kind of demonstrations, and you can show them. When you finally want to convey a message, so they can remember it, right? Outdoor sessions too. In traditional counseling, people don't prefer. But I've always been taking outdoor sessions, I think. I don't know. If I'm not exaggerating, more than 30 to 40%, I have taken outdoor sessions. Thousands of sessions, I can tell you, ever since I started. Out of thousands of sessions, a lot of sessions have been, I have literally enjoyed it, and the client has enjoyed it too. And this is how you can make your session more engaging, right? Can be coffee shop, can be park, can be religious places, depending on how your client is and what's their preferred location. Yeah, you don't have to go on hill stations, but we can do that too. But outdoor session can really, really help, right? Because a lot of therapy sessions are performed traveling. People go in a group. So outdoor sessions, absolutely, you can do that. And then you have video or audio tape. You know, if you have a video or audio tape for one of the counselors that you have recorded in the confidence only for educational purposes, concealing all the personal information, you can say that with the permission, I have a few recordings of the counseling I might want to play. You just want to listen what it is, can also help. Invite guest counselor is possible. You know, sometimes you know what, this session is going to be a little different. I have my mentor with me, and I have my colleagues with me who's an expert on this. You had this question, and I thought of, inviting him. He can really be of such help. So, it can be psychologist, psychiatrist, life coach too. Sometimes, they're amazing people. Life coaching is all about helping you reach your maximum potential using the positive psychology. Right? Invite counseling for dinner or lunch too, as possible, in the safe counseling environment, right? Especially when you have family, when you already have someone. So you can invite them for a quick dinner, a lunch, for a birthday, if somebody has it, just for the change. It's like trying these things so that you not only make the session engaging, so that the trust is built, they take you seriously, they act upon it, and they give you more reasons for the counseling to be successful, if possible. But do everything in a controlled setting. Every effect has a side effect. Be careful. Hobby, make them do something what they like, or anything for themselves or for yourselves too. For example, say, you're such a singer. Do you want to sing this? I love this song. I don't know how comfortable you are. Whenever you feel like, I love to listen to this. Or maybe you're a good painter. And you can give them anything, because asking them to do something will make them feel contributed, all for themselves. When was the last time you did that YouTube video? Yeah, okay. Can you do one for 30 seconds? A good one. Make them do. So there can be hundreds of ways you can think of making your session absolutely engaging. If I can use a word, simply addictive. People would love to come to you, but don't make them dependent. Now, improvement measuring. You understand, no matter how great of a counselor you are and how great you think you have done, or how much your counseling has been appreciating you throughout the sessions, it's possible that your counseling may complain one day, saying that, you know what, I still feel the same way. I don't think. For that not to happen, you ensure that you keep measuring the effect or impact of your counseling session, how you want to do it. There are different ways you can evaluate your session. One can be conversational, just by asking in the end of the session, so how are you feeling now? How different do you feel now? Do you still feel the same way? Now you have a hope that things can be all right? How much you still believe that things how much you believe that things had, got better at the scale of 0 to 10? Ask. Just in conversation, evaluate how impactful it is. And keep recording it too, in a way. Second can be evidential. The evidence will speak, right? How they were when they came. How was their first day when they came for a session? How they were looking, how they were talking, how whatever it was there, it's no longer there. or most of things have changed. Clear evidence in personal life, in professional life, in social life, right? Spiritual life, whatever life they have. Social evidence, personal evidence. What are the evidence? For example, when initially they come, they were quite stressed out and literally depressed. The way they were talking, everything was like this. Now, there's nothing like it. Now things have changed. Evidence-based evaluation. Then personal. How do they personally feel things have changed for them? Right? Can be clinical. So when they came to the session for the first time, you might want to do anxiety test, you want to do depression test, you want to do this test. You perform all the tests, now perform the same test after a few sessions and clinically proved and evaluated. You have come a long way. The progress has happened. And observational, something that you observe. Not necessarily an evidence, but something that you're reading between the words, reading, in the body language, in tone, everything, something that you can observe. So these are the improvement measuring techniques that you can have. Listening strategy is an amazing thing. It might sound old, but I'm going to tell you something can be very, very new to you. The ultimate objective of listening is to ensure that your client keeps talking. It's not about understanding, because you can't understand unless you know all the dots. It's not about understanding. It's possible the client is speaking in a different wavelength, you're listening in a different. So understanding is not necessarily the ultimate objective. There's a lot of things you can't understand. The kind of trauma that someone has gone through. So what is the ultimate objective of listening is ensure that your client keeps talking. Because when they talk, they tell you a lot of things. The more they talk, the less questions you have. The less questions you have, the more answers you have. And you have. Good. One thing, what are the few strategies that I have been using? And I would recommend that you do too, if it suits and works for you. First, show curious. Curiosity will make them talk more. From your body language, from your tone, from phrases you use, conversation that you have, modeling that you want to do, show curiosity. The more curious you are, the more they will say and talk. Express emotions, right? Don't be like a sad face or stone face. Express emotions, right? Be a part of their story when they tell you. Note more often, right? Because noting will tell you, even if you're not saying anything, noting will tell you. Note more often than you usually do. Praise sincerely. Wherever, like I say, everyone has 100 things you can appreciate about and praise and compliment. Do it. Do it sincerely. Ask details and questions. Ask a detail. You know what? Tell me something more about this. I'm really interested in learning more of what happened that day. The moment you show that interest, you ask the detail, okay, they really want to talk and ask more questions. They follow up and, leading questions you have. Don't interrupt, but slip in. Yeah. So interruption is not appreciated, but slipping is be good at, because many times the client won't stop. Or maybe you want to change the direction. So don't slip in. Don't interrupt, but slip in. How do you slip in? Don't cut. So let's say your volume, when you want to say something, you want to quickly slip in the conversation. When you want to say something, start with, let's say your volume has a degree 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, 4 degree volume. Start with 1 degree, and the moment you have 1 second of space, move it from 1 degree to 5 degree. For example, say, what? You say, what? The moment you said, and they have some space, they paid attention on you, and they say, whatever saying is that you're right. Or you can slip in by acknowledgement. You're like, right. And when you say right, and it gives you 2 seconds, and that's when you start. You say, true, absolutely. You know what? Because you're not making any statement, you're just acknowledging. And when they start acknowledging your acknowledgement and go slow down, this is when you quickly slip in. And you don't cut in, you just slip in. Take note or scribble, right? Keep taking notes, because keep taking notes and scribbling will later on help them realize, you know, that you were really interested in all those points. And this is where you can bring a lot of insights. So these are some listening strategies that you have. The more you do, the more you learn how well you can do. I promise you, it's going to be amazing. Uh, that's it in 12 counseling skills. I'm positive that you have learned a lot. I'm also positive that these things will give you this confidence. The 12 counseling skills will give you the confidence for you to be a better counselor, a modern time counselor. And I wish you all the best. And I want you to a 21st century counselor. Um, Learn all the traditional counseling skills that you have, like positive regard, unconditional positive regards and listening. But I insist that learn all these critical counseling skills, imbibe these in you, and be the next generation counselor. All the best.